This is the movie's recap. Please like, subscribe, and press the bell icon. Thanks for watching. The movie starts with a family sitting by the river, relishing their time. The youngest of them, Sergei, goes to his elder brother and mother about him being on top of a tree when unexpectedly German fighter jets glide overhead. The mother asks her kids to quickly hide in the copses, but the 6-year-old shares that he is not terrified and hits the jet with a slingshot. To everyone's astonishment, he manages to hit the jets and demolish them. But when he glances around, his family is gone. Sergei wakes up scared from his imagination and calls for his mom. Just then, someone bangs on his door. Thinking it is his mother, he runs towards it, but a neighbor lady comes in panicking. She thanks God for keeping him alive and declares to him that his mother and brother are deceased. The little boy cannot understand what she is saying and wants to stay in the home to wait for his mother. The woman tells him that the Germans have bombarded them and that he should run away. Just then, some troopers approach their house. The woman makes Sergei run out through the window but is shot dead before she can join him. The 6-year-old is now on his own with no home or friends. Sergei runs away from home. He sees his whole neighborhood scorching behind him. He calls for his mother in vain and runs away from there. After running for a while, he ends up in the middle of the jungle. The little kid starts to call for his mother to come and get him because he is lost. That night, he stays in the jungle. The following sunrise, we see him consume water from a river. When the enemy troopers hover his way, Sergei, knowing that they are scary, quickly hides inside the tree roots. He is surprised when a serpent comes nearby but doesn't utter a word or run away. Sergei is more scared of the troopers than of the serpent. The troopers dine by the river and go away, after which Sergei takes their leftover food and eats it for the night. However, by the end of the day, the little boy is tired. He hasn't had a proper feast in 2 days and has been walking with no goal. He falls as he crawls, but he doesn't stop striding. While on his way, he sees wild berries and consumes them. But just then, a blast occurs behind him, taking him by surprise. The boy gets fogged and starts to hallucinate someone coming behind him. However, even in such circumstances, he stands fearless and tells the person he has a rifle and is not afraid. He crawls forward but falls lifeless. After a while he is asleep. 2 troopers approach him. The scene cuts to the Russian army camp where Chief Kuznets waits for his patrol troopers. They come in with the little kid who is wounded and vulnerable. When the troopers proclaim they are on his side, the little boy opens up and presents himself. The troopers laugh when the kid shakes his hand with the chief, suggesting he introduce himself to the troopers, feel love with the little kid and circle him around. They make him drink water and feed him. Even the heartless chief takes care of the kid. A nurse named Katya bandages Sergei's injuries and is fascinated by his character. The kid asks her to draw a tank on his wounds because he wants to be a warrior. When he grows up, even the injured troopers talk to the kid and feel softer. Sergei is mesmerized by the chief's gun and his badge. The chief answers all the little boy's queries and lets him play with his honorary gun after taking the shells out. Sergei shows him the tank sketched on his belly and brags about being a trooper himself. The boy is recovering very fast. The nurse, Katya, asks the chief to let the boy remain with the brigade, but he opposes, arguing that it won't be safe. He wants to send Sergei to an orphanage. The troopers spend all their free time with Sergei. All throughout the day, many people see him. They bring him meals sent by their relatives and even let him play with their binoculars. One day, a trooper goes to the commander to ask him to let the boy remain with the battalion. The troopers have developed a close connection with the kid and think of him as their own. His existence takes the poundage of war off their chests. Nevertheless, the chief is stubborn about sending the boy to the orphanage for his protection. The following day, the rivals attacked, and many troopers were injured. A vehicle arrives to fetch Sergei and take him to the orphanage. The chief breaks the news to the kid and gives him a wooden honorary gun as a gift. The boy, in turn, hugs him, swearing that he is afraid for the captain's safety. The chief melts in his embrace and changes his mind. He asks Sergei to stay with the troopers as his son. That evening, the troopers looked for small clothes for the little boy. They are over the moon to have Sergei stay with them. The chief wakes Sergei up and gives him the garments. He wears them and flies around, looking like a real trooper. The others start naming him their little soldier boy. As the kid flies around, the Germans launch an air invasion on the regiment. The troopers quickly take Sergei to a safe location and combat the others. The number of injured troopers increases rapidly. Sergei wants to make himself valuable, so he fetches water for thirsty troopers. Because he has a dressing over his eyes, one of them asks him to read a note that his wife sent. The little boy wants to help but doesn't know how to read. He takes the note and begins making up the things written on it, swearing that the trooper's cow is secure back home. When the trooper says he doesn't have a cow, the others tell him to go along with the tale and giggle. He reads everyone else's notes in the same manner and cheers them up. In the next scene, we see Katya and the chief talking. The two seem to be drawn to each other but do not reveal their emotions. Thereafter, Sergei describes to the chief that he is in an orderly position in the regiment and starts presenting himself as one. However, the boy then sees one of the troopers' posts eradicated by the attack. The chief teaches him to take his hat off to pay admiration to the dead trooper. The next day, he insists the chief give him an assignment, and he is given an assignment to circulate the notes among the troopers. He finishes his mission efficiently and even makes the troopers dance for him. The following day, Sergei goes far from the base with his binoculars as he is playing with them. He sees somebody's leg moving from inside a haystack. He runs back to the regiment and tells the troopers about his discoveries. The troopers are doubtful but go with the boy nonetheless. When they reach the haystack, they are alerted to see 2 German spies concealed beneath. The spies are contained, and the kid is honored for his cleverness. That night, the commander shows Sergei the lawful documents for his adoption. He is now officially the kid's dad. Sergei knows of the chief's emotions for Katya. So to repay his empathy, he asks him to admit it. But the two see her speaking to another man and wrongfully think she is interested in someone else. The camp is bombarded by the Germans again this time. Sergei helps the troopers with all his might by providing ammunition to the troopers on the front line. But the soldiers there order him to go back to the shack because it is too unsafe outside. When he comes to the shack, he sees the troopers and others panicking because the phone's connection with the colonel is lost. A trooper is sent to fix the damaged wires. Sergei follows the trooper and sees that he has been fatally injured. He asks the dying trooper how he can fix the wires and does it himself. The link comes back, and more troops are called. The 6-year-old protects everyone's life. Later, we see the chief and Katya talking by the river. The chief finally reveals his passion for her and asks her to be Sergei's mom. Katya is over the moon, but before she can say anything, a trooper approaches them and gives the chief a note saying they have been rerouted from the base. The next day, all the troopers depart for their new command, along with Sergei. However, on their way, they come across a minefield that blows off some of their cars. The chief is hurt while the group's orderly, whom Sergei was close with, dies in the blast. He screams and hugs the chief. They carry the injured ones with them and resume their journey to their new base. When they finally reach the other base, they meet the chief's head, the general. He too is impressed by the kid's purpose and compliments the chief for having such a wise kid. The following day, their group is awarded a guard's banner, and so is the boy. He pledges to save his nation when the general gives him his badge. One evening, their base is bombarded brutally, and the chief is tangled under the ruins. Sergei cries for his dad and tries to protect him. He calls the other troopers, who ultimately bring the chief out. The next day, Sergei approaches an injured chief. His hands were wounded while trying to save the chief. The kid is now an intimate part of the group. He doesn't have a family beside them, and he moves wherever they go in the battle. The movie ends with the squadron moving to another command. A narrator now tells the story of this extraordinary warrior, who also fought in the Stalingrad War and arrived in Poland with the troopers. He is known as the legendary youngest fighter ever to live. This is the movie's recap. Please like, subscribe, and press the bell icon. Thanks for watching.